Okay, today we are talking about Fitbit. We're going to talk about this one screen in Fitbit. And we're going to talk about the difference between economics and behavioral economics and how it influences product management and this screen. So basically in economics, the assumption that the field makes is that people have stable, well-defined preferences and that people choose rationally. And in behavioral economics, the big assumption the field makes is that decisions and choices are influenced by the environment around us, whether this be social, emotional, psychological, and that this influences our and even creates our preferences. And so if you have this different worldview, you would design an app differently because in the economics worldview, your job is to pull out and understand people's preferences. Because remember, they are stable and they are well-defined. And so I have a preference to what I want going into an app. And if the app gets it wrong, then they will lose me as a customer. And in the behavioral economics world, the PM would assume that people actually don't have fixed preferences, that preferences are created. And by the design of the system or the app, that my preferences can change. And your job is to try to design a system that helps me get to whatever user outcome you are trying to get me to do. This is the different worldview. My very personal example is that I like M&Ms. I have a preference for M&Ms, and yet my decision making is influenced by the environment around me. So if the M&Ms are close to me, choice architecture, I would eat more of them. If they are farther away, I would eat less. If the jar is on, I would eat less. If the jar is off, I would eat more. If other people are eating M&Ms, I would eat M&Ms. And if nobody's eating M&Ms, I would eat probably some, but less. And so my decision making, my preferences in that moment are influenced by the environment around me. I don't have these kind of fixed, stable preferences for M&Ms or not. Okay. Here we go with this screen. So this screen is basically after I've signed in with Fitbit, my Fitbit email. I haven't been logging on for years. And they greet me with this, which is, hey, Fitbit is now part of the Google family. And it seems like they're saying I can now finally, I can move. I was waiting for this my Fitbit account to my Google account. This is a big deal. I'm so excited. No, of course not. I've never thought about this. This is something generally seems account management. And do I want to get started is the question. And so my goal in logging into Fitbit is to use or experience Fitbit, not to move an account. And so I'm going to say no thanks. Okay, and this is it. So it says not ready to move to Google. So they are assuming that I have a fixed preference not to use my Google account versus I have time inconsistent preferences, and maybe I do have a preference to have a unified account for Fitbit and increase my whatever features they told me I would have. But instead today, I would just want to use the app. So I have time inconsistent preferences. My present self is saying, actually, I want to not do work. And maybe my future self would say something different. But the assumption these product managers are making is that by saying no thanks, they have now understood my clear preference and I am not ready to move to Google. So you can imagine now that people would design a much different experience if the assumption in the behavioral economics world is that actually I may have time inconsistent preferences or I'm motivated by the design of the screen to do something or not do something. And so in this world, I would probably do a couple things. First would be incorporate it into the flow so that if it is in my best interest to use Fitbit, to use it with my Google account, you're just making that decision for me because it's something that I don't necessarily have an opinion on, want to form an opinion on, have investigated enough to know enough information to form an opinion on. And so if it is in my best interest to do the Google account, then just that should be the next step. Make that the default for me to continue to do that. Or you could say, instead of asking me at a time where I want to do something else and my present bias is pushing me to do that, you could imagine asking me at a time where Google has unlocked a feature for me and it is accessible through my Google account. And it would motivate me then to get over the high amount of friction to do this because you're giving me a benefit afterwards. And again, it's not that I have fixed preferences to use my Google account or not. It's that the environment, the context of the choice architecture that is put in front of me will drive my decision making. So this is really the difference. If you view your user in an economics fashion, you would design something like this. And if you view your user in a behavioral economics world, you wouldn't design this. So I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna click get started. Oh, I'm moving the account. There's 3 steps to do it. I'm out. I give up.